Hello, world, and welcome to Creating Light with Kelsey. I have another guest on the podcast, Vanessa. And Vanessa is a certified practitioner in the emotion code, body code, belief code, quantum healing, and intuitive rebirth with training in muscle testing, Western astrology, and trauma-informed care. She offers one-on-one energy shifting sessions and is creating a guide to help people connect with their own body and energy field through nervous system regulation, emotional processing, and self-reflection. Her vision for her business, which is Dawning Hope, is to let others know that even after the darkest of the night, the sun always rises, and that the dawn brings new hope. So, welcome, Vanessa. Happy to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
And can you give some explanation on all those certifications for people that listen to that but may not have any idea what those would mean?
Yeah, so emotion code, body code, and belief code, they're all created by a company called Discover Healing. And they're kind of like, I describe it as like a map almost, and you use muscle testing, and then they create these sort of maps that you can muscle test through and kind of find imbalances in people's energy field. And then they teach you how to clear them in their way, I guess you could say. And then like quantum healing and intuitive rebirth were really, the certifications were really more based on like getting in touch with your own intuition and like, who you're working with in like a quantum field or an energetic sense. So it's kind of just, I guess, a lot of fancy words for energy work.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's all energy work. So what had you keep getting other certifications to build on it if it's all energy work? I guess what's some of the nuance that you've noticed within different certifications?
They're all very different. Like emotion code is like inside of the body code map, you could say. But as far as the rest of them, they're all like very different in nature, just different ways of teaching. Like energy work is so vast, like the quantum field is so vast that
Hmm.
it's just really different ways of teaching, how to help bring someone's field into deeper coherence, really.
Very cool. And we met through the astrologer Daniel Page, well, it was Sovereign CEO. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
more so that than the community. So I think I like to note how I met the guests because it's all ended up being through some kind of course or certification program.
so.
How we've been connected. So through like other mentors being in their space, connecting with people and then building that, and then us also being entrepreneurs and then that widening there. So I think that's like really fascinating to see all of that interconnectedness play out.
Yeah, those communities, they're always like super powerful also, and the support is incredible too.
Hmm. Yeah. So first official question, what does soul liberation mean to you?
When I think of liberation, I think of like freedom from needing to do, maybe just freedom to just simply be, or like freedom to live in love and authenticity rather than like all the programs and things that aren't our truth. But
Hmm.
yeah, like ultimately like freedom from what is not me.
Yeah. And to be, I think that's a big component that people miss or can easily forget, especially when they're on their own healing journey.
Yeah,
Yeah, just to be and be present.
be present, exactly.
That part is like the extra kicker is being present. Um,
That my guide that you had mentioned is actually called Embody Presence. So I'm like, yes, this is
Ooh.
my little area that I like to talk about.
Yeah. So what brought you onto this path of helping and guiding others with their healing journey?
Um, so like obviously it's a very long story, so just
Yes.
kind of short. Um, I actually became bedridden at one point while I was living in a house with like extremely toxic mold. It it kind of just felt like if you name a symptom, I had it almost. But like being bedridden, it's like I can't just accept that this is my life. Like, so I was, not able to do much anyway. So I just started like researching and diving into mostly like more of the holistic, functional, and natural like health information. And like I did detoxes and changed my entire lifestyle with all the toxins and all of that. But I just kept feeling like there's another, I don't know, layer or like something more to it that I needed to seek. So eventually I came across the idea of like energy healing, and it just felt really aligned and like familiar almost.
Mhm.
And so I started with reading the emotion code book, and I was like practicing that because it was shared as like an energy healing technique that anyone can learn. And that kind of tells you where I was with kind of trust in myself too, because I was like, if anyone can learn it, then I can do it.
Yeah.
But just even just practicing that little layer of it, I started seeing like really deep shifts in my health and like improvements. And eventually I started thinking, okay, like I'm releasing these trapped emotions, but maybe I should really like gain some emotional intelligence on being with them before they trap, or in ways to keep them from trapping, kind of a preventative measure. So I got really into like the emotional work and like supporting yourself through that. Um, and kind of even like trauma and the way it impacts the physical body, because I feel like that's been a big part of my health, because I realized like I could pinpoint a lot of my symptoms to around like the loss of my mother and like her illness and stuff. So, in processing like emotions and trauma, my body even actually started handling like the detoxes and stuff better, because it was reacting kind of intensely. And um, even like belief code and more of the intuitive courses can kind of lead you also into blocks to healing and things, like if you think you're unworthy of it or things like that. And I feel like those were really big for me and like making more strides in my health. Um, it's just kind of been continuous deepening of the journey from there.
Mhm.
But what I've been loving about my work lately is I've actually had the pleasure of working with some children like remotely in my one-to-one sessions, and their parents are reporting like really incredible shifts and like different like hindrances to that were like significantly impacting their lives. Like one example was like a chronic case of anxiety that's really like let up a lot. And now the child's like able to have a social life and actually interact with family and like make friends and, like a sense of community. So like it's such a huge pillar to overall health. So that's been really cool to see. I
Yeah.
think I was gonna say like I just see so much in kids these days of like all that they carry from like lineages and like like just I guess you could say like just trauma in the DNA. And I just like there's so many sicknesses in kids already that are so young. And but I don't know, it just makes me like hopeful that for the next generations, like with everything that's all these measures and things that are coming out to help support people, I feel like there's hope for healing, I hope.
Yeah, that has me think of the visual diagram talking about the generational trauma of how one generation experiences this, the next generation may not experience that trauma, but then they have like the different emotional repercussions or the projections from the parents that didn't heal from that. And then from there, it may be even less, but then that child is experiencing still such deep depression and anxiety, but they're nothing quote unquote went wrong in their life, so it doesn't make sense as to why they're carrying such dense energy and emotions. But like you said, it's exactly that. And it's just things that are trapped and still carried down. And then we see it
Yeah,
so young, and you're like, what?
yeah, that suppression. And yeah, I hope that it can, with all that's coming out. And I know like energy work and even like therapy and stuff is getting more normalized. So it's like I have hope for like them to have more freedoms in their bodies and their lives as they work at it.
hmm At what time frame was the black mold happening? When did you notice that, or when was that first starting?
Gosh, I mean, when we first got the house, we knew it was there. We like put kills over it. Oh, terrible. But that was like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I lost my mom 8 years ago. So it was like I was having some symptoms from the mold, but they weren't like debilitating. But then I had another child, and then losing my mom, it was like everything just compiled to a point of like my body wasn't okay anymore.
And that was so the bedridden part was near that after having the second child and your mom's death.
Yeah, so probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Then to think so just within that short amount of time of 5 and 6 years ago, going from bedridden to where you're at now, of showing how quick the momentum can be when it comes to healing once you really commit yourself to it, that people say it can take forever, but it also doesn't have to take that long to actually see some great change taking place.
Yeah, and I feel like even like I haven't been, I would say, bedridden for like several years now even. And I wouldn't say like going from bedridden to like actually being able to function in day-to-day life. I wouldn't say it was a long time, but it definitely when you're in it feels like a long
Sure.
time or can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with also what you're doing, so now if you're working with children too, I'd be curious about this, that you and I are both passionate about parts work and the work that you do with your clients. And so can you explain how you incorporate this in with your work and with the energy work that you do?
I actually didn't have like knowledge of the official phrases of like parts work or internal family
Okay.
systems when I first started practicing it. I would just like be in session and I would see this aspect of someone come forth. And, whether that looks like an infant or an angry protector or like a child aspect of them. But I would be like guided on how to help that aspect and be there for them and like kind of what they were needing or, if they needed to express or what they've been through or conversing with them. And ways to like help them feel safe and loved as I was in presence with them. And I noticed a common theme that a lot of them often need like physical space or in the energetic realm physical space
Mm.
at first. And then like a lot of them just need like witnessed and like others will like just want to stay hidden, but with that loving presence nearby so that they're not super trusting it. But that like just feels like a testament to me of like how we can be there for ourselves and for others and that just presence alone can actually be like so healing for someone in in any state really.
That's what
But
we talk about so much in the somatic work of just the feelings themselves oftentimes just need that presence to be witnessed and really not coming in with the agenda of like, well, this needs to change, this needs to shift.
yeah, yeah, without that underlying, I mean, I'm guided differently every time. Sometimes it's like they're like, I need help, help me. And sometimes it's like just like they don't ask to be there with them, but it's like I'm guided to just stay, just keep your distance. And, just eventually it's like there's an opening or like a neutralizing of a charge kind of that can take place. And then it's like once they've expressed or like felt love and unity in a moment that they were like disconnected, then sometimes they'll even like integrate back into say like a present day self. And so it's like that neutralizing. So like this could show up in that person's life as like when I think about that event, I don't feel as angry anymore. I don't feel that like charge as much, or like they can kind of feel whole even if they're feeling grief in a way. But yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. How would you explain it in more simplistic terms as far as parts work?
It could be like I've heard it called parts work. Like there's I think an official term is like internal family systems
Yeah,
by I
that's in
believe
the field of psychology. Yeah, by Richardson.
yeah, Dr. Schwartz. Yeah, okay. And yeah, and like they use that as like a form of therapy. Which so it's like the client can identify and name these various aspects of themselves as a way to realize like these aspects aren't my true self, um, or like the soul or the truth of who they are. So like in emotionally intense moments, it's said that parts of ourselves can become fragmented and like stuck in that moment in time almost. And then there might even be like protector parts that are kind of formed to protect like a soft and vulnerable aspect of us or emotion. And they can, like, the protector parts can actually come off as like emotionless or numb or angry oftentimes I've found. Um, but with this work, it's like rather than just deciding like, yeah, I'm just an angry person, like that's just who I am. It's like clients can recognize there's a part of them who is angry, but then when they like identify as their true self, they can be there for that part of them that's angry in ways like a loving parent might be. So like they can ask like, what do you need? Or just give them space to explain why or even to just express. And then all this time they're like still holding that, knowing that this is just an aspect of my multidimensional self and it's not like all consuming and it's not like my whole human identity.
It goes in the ebbs and flows of everything that we experience. Like, I think that's what can be so empowering too, is reminding that of people, these parts of self or these feelings is not you.
Yeah, like it is a part of you and like it's not to say it's not you, so neglect it or it's not
Yes, yeah.
real. It's not like that. It's like it's an emotion or it's a part that can become fragmented and just really need love, honestly.
And with parts work, the thing and same thing with somatic. That's why I love how that like ties in. There's just so much this thread of truth within a lot of stuff if you keep peeling it back at so many different avenues of healing and working and all of that. Um, but it's about loving and accepting the parts. You already started to talk about that, and that's how that energetic charge gets more neutralized or they become integrated again because it's in same concept of the shadow aspects of self. The shadow becomes a shadow because we reject and suppress and push away and neglect and say that that is not of me. But then once we come back into the love and acceptance, that's how we remember the wholeness. So for you, what does it mean to love and accept all your parts? The importance of not clinging to their identity.
I think the work is like really powerful. It's like from a place of unity and just like you can come from like I'm holding space for all these various parts of me and I'm allowing them to like just be present. And I think it can also be really powerful to like meet and get to know each part that's coming up like individually on a deeper level so they can be witnessed and like feel neutral or whole again. So it's like you can come from like I accept all of this and you can be like now like I'm taking time just for you to like see you and like just a certain aspect of it. I think that like at our core we're like this unique expression of like authentic and unconditional love, but then we're also having this multidimensional experience, so it's never like we're never just one thing really. So it's like I work with energy, but then like I also work with the nervous system. And I'm also a mom, and I'm also a wife, I'm also a sister, also a friend. Like, I
Mhm.
love to garden, I love horses, all these things. But it would be so limiting for me to try and just identify as one of those.
Right.
Like if I only remain professional at all times, like even in my casual at home life where I like to like laugh and be goofy, like it would be so limiting. So it's like I can be Vanessa and I can still have parts of me that feel like a victim to something sometimes, or parts of me that are grieving at times. And it's like I can take time and hold space for it and really honor like those parts when they come up because sometimes they do come up like needing the attention. But then I also get to like experience my life and I get to experience joy rather than identify only as like someone who's grieving.
And if you don't bring in that acceptance, a lot of times then they won't leave and let you
Get
experience the
louder,
life.
get
They
louder.
just like, yeah, get louder, take up more space.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you had just said it. It's them coming forward to express a need. A need is being met. And
Yeah.
that's when we look at it at that, that's where it becomes easier to accept and love that part of self and that it's not the enemy, it's just trying to get a need met.
Yeah, exactly.
So, with recent lessons that you've been embodying, that you've shared, that you've been understanding how everything is finite and drinking up the moment. So, can you let us in a little bit more on those recent realizations?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm a mother and
Mhm.
I'm learning how often and how deeply moms like we move through these waves of like we go through the day to day and we're just moving through the day to day, but then also like we're knowing that our children are growing and changing so quickly, and we never know when it might be the last time that like our child asks to be cuddled or to hold their hand when they're nervous. And I'm gonna get emotional at this part.
That's okay.
And a friend shared something with me one day about how like one day you might look back at a photo from like 2 years ago even, and you know that you'll never see like that same human again, like looking exactly the same, like, with the little tooth gone or whatever it is. And but it's like while they're completely different now, they're still all of them are still like they're still our babies, but our way of loving them and being there for them, it changes like so rapidly. And I don't know, this is just like the most intense example I can share of like the embodiment of like how I've experienced everything feeling so finite. Like I know like through every phase of really anyone's life, people will be like, it goes by too fast. And they say like one of the main wishes of the dying or those who've lost a loved one is I wish I had more time, or like I wish I would have known it was the last time. And I think that we can think about this and we can like know it and conceptualize it, but it's like I didn't really feel the truth in it, I don't feel like, until grief and even regret have like come from lived experience of it. Because it's like I said this in an Instagram post, like grief or regret, they're not the blame for that sort of like gaping hole that it can feel like, but they can actually be like a gift and a teacher even, because they remind us how like freaking precious every single moment is. Like if we let them, they continually bring us deeper appreciation and love for like every person in our life and every moment in our life. And they remind us that none of this is forever. And I just think without that realization, we can tend to just rush through our days and like kind of almost dissociate and not really like truly honor each moment. So it really brings us into deeper presence with the unique and beautiful life that we are living, that we can really take for granted without those reminders that, hey, this isn't forever.
Yeah, it would be so easy. That's with the life and the systems that are structured of how to live, especially in the US. It's so easy to just wake up, go to work, come home, do some housely duties, tend to your family for a tiny bit of time, and then like go back and do the same thing when that like when
Yeah, or
work especially can take up so much time.
yeah, and like, come home and just watch TV or meet basic needs and then, do things that take your mind off of your actual life or yeah.
TV. That is such a that I can see how this specific example would just pull you right out of that and being completely, like you said, disassociated or in a fog of that, hey, this moment is finite, this moment is passing as we speak. Do you want to spend it in other things that would perpetuate distraction and numbness, or do you want to be here right now with what is?
Yeah, because you'll look back and think, oh, I wish I wouldn't have been watching TV when my kids were asking me to play or whatever it might be.
It's that spiritual law of impermanence.
Yeah.
It's we bless it sometimes, and other times it feels like I know this is a blessing, but this also sucks so bad.
Yeah, exactly.
And with some of the work with this, and also impermanence ties into this, with the work that you do with clients, and also what's been so prevalent in your life and your personal healing journey is experiencing immense amounts of grief. So, what are some things that you wish more people knew about or would accept when it comes to grief?
I actually recently wrote in an Instagram post, grief didn't take them.
Mm.
So, like, grief didn't take that moment or that person or that experience from you. And the way I've come to see it over the years is like, I think grief is here to sort of nudge you and say, like, hey, do you remember how beautiful and incredible that was? Like, and in that remembering, as long as it's like we're consciously not like, seeking into the past or anything like that, we can like apply it to the present moment and be like, whoa, like I remember how beautiful that was, which means that one day I'll probably be remembering how beautiful this moment is, or, what wishing I would have been present in this moment. And that's such a profound reminder that each moment should be experienced to its fullest so that you can look back and be like, yes. like that. I lived that moment. I was there fully. Like just the fulfillment in thinking of that, like, oh yeah, like I made the most of that moment. I was fully present. Because I think like ultimately grief, I know it can sound like contradictory because I've been in so many phases of it, I think, but I think ultimately it can be like a friend, and it can like it's gently reminding us of like the awe of the past, but it's so that we can fully appreciate what we're present to right now. So it's not actually like big and scary, but it's really more soft and vulnerable. And if it's like seen as a friend, it can you can see it as like a little like tap or nudge or even like a hug of like it's whispering like have gratitude for what's in front of you right now. Because like you said, the law of impermanence, like the only constant in life is change. And I think grief really helps us to remember that in such like a really deep and embodied way, which it can really be a gift.
And what about living the moment fully when it is full of just that darkness and grief and we're in just such a difficult phase?
I think I wrote about this somewhere as well. Like grief, you can see it as like grief coming in waves and like it's gonna feel like it's crashing onto you and like it can feel scary at first, but it's like while it feels all encompassing, rather than trying to like fight it or like run from it, it's like what if you just like leaned into that and like just really surrendered to it and like you like felt the power of that wave crash and you were just like like really present to that experience of how that feels. And like it might sound dramatic to some people, but honestly, sometimes it feels like you could like die from it. Like it's like, am I gonna make it through this? But I think that in the experience of like feeling it fully, there's also a freedom in that of like it's like when you look back on that moment, you can be like, I was like so fully and deeply experiencing that and so present to that, even though it was really intense. I was present to every single moment of it. Like it's kind of the same concept with life. When life gets intense, it's like, how much can you keep your center and like just really lean into it and experience it.
A mantra that I like to tell people and remind people is that we can survive any feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in a course and the teacher says it's just a sensation.
Yeah, because
Like without going into resistance, can you just sink into it?
it's already here, right?
Yeah.
It's already here. And it does at times feel like you're going to die. But that's also the sensation that grief brings because a lot of time grief is the signifier of death in other ways. So of course it's going to feel like you're going to die if you fully feel this because that's the charge that it's connected to.
Yeah, like it can have that, like you said, like that flavor of death, or even like if you think of it as a moment or experience, it's like that's gone now. So then you might automatically feel like it's gonna take me too.
Yeah. Can you speak to more about the softness of it?
Well, like I think of grief, I don't see it as like at first it felt like this roaring, like big, scary, really sensation, but I feel like it can feel like that if it gets really loud and it's like anyone if anyone's trying to get your attention they're like hi 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 and then it's like hello eventually it can get to a level of like you have got to acknowledge me. And as one might start to acknowledge it, it really at its core I feel like is so soft and like so vulnerable, and like I could see like how I mentioned the protector aspects of it. There's so often protector aspects to grief. Like grief is one of the, I guess you could say, the deeper layers because there's so many other aspects that can come before you get to that depth because it's so vulnerable and it's it's soft and it's scary almost to like get to that depth. And
Mm.
so if you can acknowledge it through when it's loud and feels scary, I think eventually people would kind of get to that level of like, oh wow, it's actually just like this. I just think of like this really immense, just like feeling of just like kind of a rolling in the waves, like it's just like just just laying on the ground wailing. It's like it's
Yeah.
so vulnerable. Like that's a state that you don't often want a lot of people to see you in. It's like super vulnerable grief.
Because it's not, and how you would look or be perceived. It's such the ugly cry. It's all the ugliness and the bareness of it.
It's the rawness of you, yeah.
Yeah. And with that, that's where people would be afraid to be stuck in it. So, what reassurance can you give people who would be afraid that if they were to allow themselves to feel such grief, that they couldn't start because then they would just get stuck or get sucked into this big black hole that grief is and never come out?
Well, like we talked about the law of impermanence, the only thing that's constant is change. Like it will, like when you dive into that, it probably will feel like I'm never gonna stop crying. Like once I start crying, I'll never stop. But again, it's like a wave. It's like, but when you're in that wave, it's like it's all you can see sometimes. And it's like you don't see the way out. You don't see, and that can feel scary. And obviously I denied it for a time in my life. It feels scary. It feels all encompassing. But again, like the only constant is change. So can you just be present to it fully while it's here because it's not here forever. It will feel like that probably if you really lean into it, but you can trust like not in a way of like, okay, it's not here forever, I can push it away, but like I can
People
really
do
embrace
that.
it because I know I'll be okay.
People really, they'll do that. They'll twist the like, oh, everything is impermanent. It's passing, it's passing, it's passing. It'll pass, it'll go away. But then they don't
Yeah.
sink into it because they're like, it's passing. So we'll just let it pass. It's like,
Yeah.
that's different. That's that. Then you just suppressed
That's
it. That's
bypassing it away. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
then it just went whoop, and we didn't sink into it at all. And I think with the stuckness, sometimes these rough phases of life and deep grief, it last years of the coming in and out of it, but the trenches of it and the mucky and muddiness can last easily a year before you kind of feel like you're catching your breath and things are feeling a little bit lighter again.
Yeah, I think right at the beginning, especially, it's like, especially if that person was a big part of your life, I think you will see them everywhere. Like you will experience that loss over and over. Like, if for me it was like my mom, it's like so if you depend on your mom to make you dinner every night at dinner, you're gonna feel that loss. Or, like if you come home to your mom after work, you're gonna feel that loss every time. Or for me, like looking at my younger siblings, it's like I felt that loss and my own children of like they don't get to know her and it's like that loss can feel like it's everywhere for a while because it's like your mind I feel like your mind almost has to start conceptualize like okay wait, I've experienced this a few times and she wasn't there now, so now I can like come to that realization. I don't expect it like over time you won't expect that dinner anymore, like okay I need to plan for dinners and you kind of have to build your life around that, no longer depending on someone else for certain things or no longer texting them when something happens. It's like it's just kind of that integration of over time you kind of start to eventually get used to them not being there in that way, which it can sound really scary if someone is like really deep in grief to be like, I don't want to get used to them not being there, but it's just something like where they're not here presently. It's like it's something that it's part of the process, I feel like, that you just kind of have to move through.
And that's where it can feel like they're everywhere in so many moments, but then that's the smaller waves of grief that visit you throughout those times, like through that dinner, through looking at your children, through like if it's here, let it be here. And it's each little moment instead of it being something that has to be a tidal wave every single time because we didn't pause to be present in the moments when it
Yeah.
was like, oh, hey, they're not here.
Yeah, because if it's like someone who's been a big part of your life in all of those moments, it could build up very easily. So there's a lot. I think it's really important for people to hold a lot of space for themselves for the first while, for sure.
And I see that's where over time, that's where you could be hardening your heart too, by not
Hmm.
allowing yourself to feel that grief. Because then at every moment when that sadness and that grief comes, then you just like, nope, mm-mm. And then it's just you don't realize how much bricks that you're laying in front of your heart and your feelings.
Yes, I've absolutely witnessed that too.
Yeah. And that's a whole other thing.
It's a whole other topic in itself, right?
It's a whole other topic. But noticing that within yourself, like that is a real reality of
Yeah.
that takes me back to when I come back into feeling that this can be hard a lot of the times is what's the alternative? And I can have
Mhm.
that comparison of like, here's the alternative if I don't do that. And with this specific example is like laying the bricks over your heart and hardening your heart in that separation. Or I feel the pain of this grief as it visits me, or I'm creating the pain of layering things in front of me.
Yeah, which ultimately I feel like that can lead to that grief that has to be being allowed to try to get past that wall, and then it can become more intense. I feel like it's so intense anyways, but it's like it's just a different flavor if you continuously deny it.
For sure. When do you notice that you may be starting to get stuck in it? And are we the ones that decide whether or not to become or remain stuck?
Like the million-dollar question, right? Um, my own personal experience was like the first more than half of my life. It was my automatic go-to thing was dissociation. But like as a child, like, I was taught not to cry. Like if you must cry, you need to go hide alone while you do that. And like for the most part, I was taught that like good people are only ever happy. Except honestly, like some adults should be respected for their anger, but that's a whole other topic in itself. But it's still like kind of deny. Unless you're happy, then you can come play or
Mm,
And so when I came into like this trauma rooted work, I realized that I needed to find like healthy ways to cope with my emotions, which it was such a process of like for me, it was like, okay, stay with it, stay with it. Every time I was like with emotion, because my mind would be like, oh, I gotta go do this and da, da, and I'm like, gotta like shut it all out, stay with it. Which when you have to remind yourself, stay with it, stay with it, you're not as deep in it as if you're just in it. But like that was like my baby steps to get to a point of where I could just be in it.
mm.
And then it was like I just had to like hold my hand or like sometimes it felt like when I was just like feeling, it was like I was underwater. And sometimes it felt like I needed to like dunk myself back under, like, no, feel it. Like stop trying to pop up and be like, I need to go write this on the grocery list or whatever it might be. And it's like, go back, come on, feel it. We don't want to avoid it. But then eventually it came to a point where I was like having a hard time moving past the emotions. I would just be in it and just like rolling in the waves and like I was like constantly doubting, like, I don't think I felt it fully yet. Go back in, like, stay with it. Kind of that patterning became not as helpful, maybe. And there was a point where I was just like in a constant state all day of just like feeling like, okay, right now I'm in this emotion. Oh man, like, okay, now I'm in this one. And I mean, yes, we're always feeling something, but to some degree, it was like a little bit unhealthy, I would say.
Mm.
And so because it was just like going through my days feeling like intense emotion all day. And then one night I was laying in bed and I was crying because I was feeling. And then I heard like part of the transformation is letting it go. And I was like, oh shit. Like, okay. Like I've been holding on to uncomfortable states for the mere fear that being uncomfortable or like that being comfortable means I'm not being present or I'm bypassing. But it's like because it was like almost like I had to avoid that happy because that was all I ever felt. And it was like that wasn't right. That didn't work. So it was like now only feeling bad things. And it's
You
like you're
like
not
pendulum swung to the other
yes.
side.
And that's funny because the teacher in that course also talks about the pendulum swing of like often that's how we learn. We
Yes.
pendulum swing one way and then we're like, that wasn't it. Like, pendulum swing the other way, and eventually, you kind of find your equilibrium. But ultimately, I do think that we have like a say in whether we remain stuck. But I think that there can be learning and wisdom in that if we do make that decision, like maybe we needed to be stuck in order to learn how to not be stuck, like in my
Hmm.
experience. But I do think there's like ultimately this beautiful like dance and balance, and I think that's probably unique to each person. But probably the only way to really know like what your balance is in that is someone would have to really just get to know themselves and determine that on their own.
And I do think everyone goes through the phase of pendulum swinging. Like I think that's just the way that us humans learn, and so often when we're just diving in, like because you said it was one whole way of existing, and then you're learning a whole other way. But just the other way that you were existing wasn't all innately bad. So
Yeah.
we can't neglect that either. When we do, then that's how then we're constantly in the darkness and the shadows. Yeah, I can be very susceptible to, to that as well.
Yeah, and I think going so long without allowing emotions, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna allow my emotions. There is gonna be like that.
Yes.
Okay, here they are, and it's gonna be that other extreme, and it's a learning experience. It's not all bad, but it's needed to learn the balance.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that is common too. At the beginning, you're feeling everything and so intensely, or you can feel like a child because if that was the time that things were starting to get
Yeah.
suppressed, then you're just not understanding why is this affecting me so much? This is not even that big of a deal, but I'm feeling so strongly and everything is kind of like triggering me because you're being sensitized again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that is also just a phase, that everything won't have to always feel so triggering all of the time on little things. Your capacity grows to handle those moments, but at first everything is just feels very big.
I remember like when I got older towards like teenage years, it was like I remember being like, I used to cry about everything and now I never cry. Like, wow, I'm doing great kind of thing. And then it's like, but where did you lose your humanness, you know?
Yes. That was a badge of honor I wore as well. I was like, I don't cry very much.
Hmm.
That means I'm strong.
Yeah. That means I'm a good person who's happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Along with that, in the spiritual community, they do love to talk about how our souls incarnate onto earth in order to experience these tough lessons and being in all of this deep dark healing journey. Like that is what we chose, that's why we're here. But on the flip, talking about the balance, how can we also talking about that we came to earth here to live and enjoy life. It's not just about the tough lessons. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. And I feel like being brought up in like certain religions are very also, I had a program of like, I need to suffer. Like that's why I'm here is to suffer kind of and
Mhm.
finding meaning in suffering for so many years. Or like basically when anything happened, it was like, oh, like this is for me to suffer. Okay, here's my chance to really, do what I'm here to do kind of thing. It was like the purpose of your life was suffering, which can be a really sad way of existing.
Mhm.
But I think there's also, like you said, there's that in the spiritual community too, of like, well, our soul came here to experience emotions, and our soul came here to experience all this duality and the the good and the bad and all of the things, which I don't know. I think it just depends on like the spiritual idea or teacher, because I know some are like, we came here to experience emotions, and some are like, we came here to experience joy too, and like not just like sadness and these really intense, that you feel in your body, that visceral experience.
Mhm.
But then, like we were talking about, I've also been like, so I'm in this course, Earth Mystery School. That's what I keep referencing. But the teacher, she says, we did not just come here to heal. Like we're already whole. We also came here to live. And I've been really playing with that other end of the pendulum, right?
Hmm.
It's like maybe we came here also to just experience like having our feet on the grass. Like maybe it's not just these huge, massive events that we came here to experience, but maybe it's also just like I wanted to experience like the color blue in the sky, or like I was thinking the other day, like sitting in traffic, like wow, I'm like driving this car, like every little thing you can make it so like if you just really get present to it, you can make it like really awe-inspiring, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
It's like it doesn't have to just be like that huge wave of grief is crashing over me. Oh, good, I'm doing what I'm here to experience. But it's like, just go sit in the grass. Maybe you want to experience that?
Hmm. And I'm really starting to embody that now and step into that. And that took a long time to get to. I felt like there was so much of the darkness to feel and work through to create the space to actually be more present and as the day is happening and enjoy those type of moments, to be able to see it really for what it is.
I think depending on someone's life and what they've been through or what their lineage has been through, I think there is a degree of healing maybe that or self-connection or just something to go through to be able to even experience that level of presence. Because even working with the nervous system, I was just thinking when I was younger and my nervous system was so like rigid, I guess you could say, I don't think that I could have opened to like hold so much duality at once because I
Hmm.
think like I couldn't have done it. Like the nervous system, you have to build that capacity over time, and it's like first opening, like feeling safe and opening the nervous system, but then also as you do that, a lot of times, a lot of emotions and traumas and things are like, oh, okay, like we're safe. Okay, well, can you like witness me? Can you feel me? Can you hear me? And so then maybe you are in a season of like really moving through old stuff or experiencing grief, or even like maybe life is like, oh, you're safe. Okay, here's, all this stuff that we've been needing you to deal
That.
with, kind of. And so it's like, there might be seasons where it's like, okay, now is the season where it could be like the shadow work type. And
Hmm.
and in that I think there are also moments of just living too. It's not only a shadow work season, like you're still this multidimensional person who can still experience joy even when you're processing. And so
And
I
I
think,
feel like you must in order for it to actually integrate.
yeah, yeah, it's like I don't know if you'd say like beating the same drum. Like if you just keep going at it, it's gonna wear down. Like you gotta take a break and just breathe and like just be for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that also expands the nervous system capacity of like I'm holding all these emotions and I can still just be. Like that's expansive too, of not just how much can I hold, but like, okay, I have all this going on, but can I also just be? Can I also just play? Like, can I also like I know you create art. It's like, can I also create art even in all of this? And like that's expanding because it's like you're in the state of flow while you're also moving through everything. So you're really building that capacity to live, I guess, is how you could say it.
Yeah. And for me is like even just thinking of it now, I'm like, oh yeah, of creating because I love creating art in any capacity and expression, but can I create art just to create art, not because I'm expressing myself or my
Yeah,
emotions?
yeah, exactly. Like play, like
Yeah.
maybe just go out and play soccer or, shoot some hoops, whatever. Like it doesn't even have to be like sports or structured. It can just be like being goofy and like I feel like children are such good teachers of that so much because they can like make play out of anything. Like, oh, we're cooking. Oh, and or we're just sitting around. Oh, now I'm this silly little. They just make up all this stuff with their
Yeah.
imagination. It's like they're so inspiring because that is like such a sign of like living and capacity and like just being able to be with life and be present.
Yeah. And I think that like part of what I would teach is saying like we're working through the darkness so we can live life fully, but it was still so easy for me to, but what does that even mean? what does that look like? What is that like? What is living life fully? And I would fall into the trap of, oh, it's we're here to experience we have to heal, we have to do this, we have to keep looking because so we can, and then it's like, okay, but are you gonna get here? Because this is here all of the time of living life, living the experience, having fun, um, building connections, doing things the mundane just to be able to do it and that you're not being unproductive or getting behind when you do those things.
Yeah, and like you said, like, do you keep moving that mile marker and do you ever actually get to the point like I'm gonna live when? Like, okay, but you said that about the other thing that you already did, and then you immediately went back into healing, and it's like I feel like there need to be seasons where you're consciously just like, I'm just gonna be, and then like obviously if something comes up like really strong and I need to be with it, beautiful, that's amazing. But not like not always seeking it out. Like once you get to that point of like kind of centeredness and equilibrium, it's like, and it feels more easy to live. It's like sometimes it can just be easy and you just get to do what feels
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, because that's also not gonna last forever.
Exactly. The only constant is changed.
It's like enjoy the easy phase when it's here. That's what I feel that I'm emerging into. It's like, okay, yeah, enjoy the easy phase because
Yeah.
you worked through it to be present for the easy phase, that it's actually here and not tied to all these other things that you've ignored.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Hmm. Well, with all of that, please share all your offerings, what you're here to bring to the world, how you help people, how they can get in contact with you, all of that.
Okay, so currently I offer one-to-one energy shifting sessions. I'm working on a guide called Embodying Presence that kind of encompasses a lot of what we talked about and the concepts of also, holding yourself through emotions and welcoming them when you're in that phase, but also self-reflection, like get to know yourself and who you are so that you can experience life too as you and not all the parts of you that have been hurt. But right now, those are my two main things that I'm working on. I have lots of big dreams and plans, but as of now, that's what's actually active in my life. My Instagram handle is at I am Vanessa Dawn, and then my business is called Dawning Hope. So the website is www.dawninghope.net, and like my email's on there and everything. But those are kind of the two main places that I can be found.
And we'll have all that in the show notes so you'll be able to find it easily. And final question, what are some ways that you create light?
Through my work,
Yeah.
I like truly through my work, but then also through play,
Mm.
whether that's, with my children or in my own inner child little bubble or whatever it might be, just balancing, like you said, the mundane and then also like finding joy in the mundane also, I would say, which kind of falls into the category of play of like how can I kind of enchant this experience and make it the magical experience or notice the magic that's in it, I guess you could say, because even the mundane holds a lot of magic if you're really present to it.
Yeah, and you can easily miss it if you're not.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure having you on and continuing to talk and um, just being seen all around. I know that's something that you and I both have been continuing to work on. So, love to share this space with you and all of that. But thank you all for listening. And remember, when we see the light in ourselves, we create light in others.